Imagine you're in a car with some family members, getting back from a trip or after enjoying a movie together. But while going back, you pass through a dense forest covered with many trees, and the road has no lights other than your own car's headlights. Suddenly, out of nowhere, you see a very bright light. But the strange part is that it's not coming from the ground, but from the sky. You ignore it, thinking it must be just a helicopter or something. However, as you drive further, that bright light comes closer and becomes even brighter. Then, shockingly, the light you were watching comes right on top of your car, just a few meters away. You get out of the car to see what exactly that thing is, but the moment you do, your skin starts to burn from immense heat, and you see something that you never could have imagined in your life. The story I just told is not made up or from imagination, but this exact thing happened on December 29th, 1980. A family of three, Betty Cash, Vickie Landrum, and Vickie's 7-year-old grandson Colby, were driving home through the dense forest near Dayton, Texas, and the exact same thing happened to them. But what happened next was even crazier. As they continued driving, overwhelmed by the intense heat, they saw something they never could have imagined, even in their worst nightmares. A massive, diamond-shaped craft with 4 points and a rounded top and bottom hovered above the road, emitting flames and intense heat from its base. The moment Vickie realized that what they were witnessing was something indescribable and terrifying, she quickly covered Colby's eyes to protect him from the brightness and heat. But just minutes later, as that craft hovered, out of nowhere, numerous CH-47 Chinook helicopters arrived, surrounding the hovering craft. The moment those helicopters came near, the diamond-shaped craft flew away from the scene at an intense speed into the sky. After witnessing this terrifying incident, the family, in shock and fear, left the place immediately. But that's not the whole story, because what happened next was even stranger and more mysterious. The next morning, at around 1 a.m., Colby woke up feeling sick. When Vickie checked on him, she found that he had a fever and had vomited all over his bed. She treated him and gave him some medicine before going back to sleep. But later, when they woke up again, she realized that she too was feeling sick and had strange burns on her skin. But that was not all. When Vickie went to Betty's house to check on her, she discovered that Betty was dangerously ill, running a high fever, and had large welts all over her face and hands. And things only got more bizarre from there. Over the next 4 days, Betty's condition worsened. When she was taken to the hospital, doctors discovered signs of radiation exposure on her skin and body. She was treated for radiation poisoning by Dr. Mallory Pagan. In the 6 weeks that followed, she lost at least half of her hair and some skin from her face. Her doctors quickly realized that she had been exposed to a dangerously high dose of radiation. After being released from the hospital, Betty had a strong feeling that this wouldn't end so easily. But not only her, Vickie and Colby were also suffering from complications. Fortunately, their conditions were not as severe as Betty's. As all of this was happening to the three of them, somehow, officials got wind of the incident. The investigation was led by John Schussler, who was associated with the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. He visited Vickie and Betty and went to the site where the sighting had occurred. That's when the investigation took an unexpected turn. When they arrived at the location, they found a large circular mark left on the road by the object. According to a witness named Amy Mosley, some trucks appeared later at that place and dug up the marked area, and new asphalt was put on that spot by some unknown people. When John interviewed nearby residents, he discovered that at least 10 people had witnessed the object. 8 of them had also seen the helicopters. One of the witnesses, Sunken L.L. Walker, and his wife were passing through the area that night and saw the helicopters. They initially thought a plane had crashed nearby. When Betty and Vickie realized that the military was involved, they decided to send a letter to former U.S. Senators John Tower and Lloyd Bentsen. In response, the senators wrote back, stating that Bergstrom Air Force Base had been notified of the incident and that they were willing to help regarding the matter. But things didn't end there. On August 21st, 1981, Vickie, Colby, and Betty went to a military office, hoping to get their medical expenses covered as promised in the letter. While in one of the rooms, they saw a map pinpointing the exact area of the sighting. Vickie and Betty were then interviewed for over 2 hours. The military took detailed notes of everything, but in the end, directly denied any involvement in the incident. But that wasn't the most shocking part. 4 weeks later, they received a response stating that their claim for medical damages against the military was denied. They lost all hope. Despite what they had seen with their own eyes, military personnel pinpointing the location on the map, the military denied knowing anything about the incident. It was clear that they were trying to hide the truth. In 1982, Vickie and Betty decided to file a lawsuit against the U.S. government. Unfortunately, the case was dismissed by a federal judge due to a lack of evidence. Meanwhile, the three of them continued suffering from their mysterious illness, still hoping that someone would come forward with proof of what had happened. Years passed, and unfortunately, on December 29, 1998, Betty Cash passed away. The strange thing was that from the day of the incident, for 18 years of her life, she was hospitalized every single year due to ongoing health issues. Then, in 2007, news came that Vickie Landrum had also passed away. Now, Colby is still here, still seeking answers about that night, an incident that changed his life forever. This case was first aired on February 6, 1991. Later, Colby appeared on UFO Hunters to share his story. Even after many years, this case remains unsolved, covered up like so many other UFO incidents. Well, what do you guys think about this whole incident? When we hear these kinds of stories, one thing becomes clear. These UFOs, or NHI, have been here for the longest time, maybe even longer than we can imagine. It's also possible that our government and military have known everything about them for a very long time. But just like in this incident, they always cover up everything. Well, I tried this new thing to tell you guys these amazing, true, real stories of UFOs and more. If you like it, then be sure to tell me if I should continue this series or not. And also, hit the like and subscribe. I would appreciate that a lot. See you, and take care.